Homeschool or to not homeschool? That's the question some Brazos Valley families are asking. What one family says they plan to do this school year. Plus a dire warning from one Texas family who says people need to be taking masking and the Delta variant more serious.
And it has been a hot day today, but still a little bit below normal. Will that continue? Your 25 News starts right now.
Connecting the Brazos Valley. This is KRHD News.
Good evening and thank you for watching KRHD News at 6. I'm Hallie Jones. Enrollment was down for many schools last year as many parents took the homeschooling route during the pandemic. But this coming school year, Caldwell ISD seeing those enrollment numbers pick back up. KRHD News reporter Rachel Esbayat explains why some parents are sending their students back to a more traditional learning environment.
Lane Anderson has been homeschooled ever since Caldwell ISD students were released on spring break in 2020 due to the pandemic.
He really missed his friends. And we sat down and had a conversation, and he just told me, Mom, I really want to go back to school. So I said, okay.
So the rising third grader is going back to public school this year, a trend the Caldwell Elementary School principal says she's seeing more and more of.
We've had more parents call and inquire this year who chose to homeschool their children last year because of the pandemic than we have in the past.
Making the school's enrollment look more like life before the pandemic. It's a transition that can be tough on students, though.
He's worried that his friends won't remember him. And I just try to, just assure him that, honey, they do remember you. Don't worry. We live in a small community.
Kids are incredibly resilient. They thrive off of relationships and their friendships, and just knowing that they get to come back to school and be in the building and be around their friends makes everyone excited.
But there are ways that parents can help prepare their students to ease the transition.
Parents talking about that transition in a positive manner is the absolute most important thing.
April Locke, a mother of two sending her sons to school for the first time, is already taking steps to do just that.
Both of them are so excited about that new playground. We drive by that playground a lot just to show them and remind them this is what you have to look forward to. So they're excited.
Maintaining an open line of communication between parents and the school will also help create a smoother transition. Rachel Esbayat, KRHD News.
According to the Texas Homeschool Coalition, Texas is one of the most pro-homeschool states in the U.S. The THSC says Texas leads the nation in number of families who homeschool, with an estimated 150,000 families and 350,000 children being taught at home. And according to a study from the U.S. Department of Education, 1.77 million students between the ages of 5 and 17 were homeschooled in 2012, up from 677,000 in 2003. And to legally homeschool in the state of Texas, the Homeschool Legal Defense Association says you must teach required subjects. This includes math, reading, spelling, and grammar, and a course in good citizenship. Though they aren't required by law, colleges will be looking for science and history courses, so those are recommended as well. You must also use a written curriculum, which you can do also online. If you're interested in starting homeschooling and want to learn more, visit hslda.org. The Hindu Society of the Brazos Valley has been hard at work collecting school supplies to fill 101 backpacks. It's part of the temple's brand new fall charity event, the 101 Vidya Pack. In just 1 week last month, the congregation collected enough supplies to fill their goal of 101 backpacks, thanks especially to their children who helped solicit donations by calling members of the local community.
Joyful thing to do for many people, and also because of COVID, because COVID has been rough very recently, so we're just giving it to those so we can make things easier for others.
This Sunday, the children will gather at the Sri Ankarnath Temple in Navasota. There, they will receive individual blessings before stuffing each backpack with school supplies. And for more information of the upcoming school year, including school supply drives and how schools are preparing for the fall semester, connect with KRHD online. It's simple. Pull out your phones, open the camera app, and scan the QR code that you see on your screen. A notification banner will show up at the top of your screen on your phone. Tap that banner. It'll take you to a link to access our website and all of our social media accounts as well. Texas A&M police need your help finding a suspect who burglarized 4 buildings at the University Farm Complex. Officials say various tools, a truck, trailer, and UTV were stolen from the complex. The truck is a 2013 white Ford F-250 double cab. It has an AgriLife logo on the passenger side. The UTV is a John Deere Gator XUV, green in color. If you have any information, call Texas A&M University Police. In the early days of the pandemic, news and recommendations seem to change by the hour. Now that the Delta variant has taken hold, we're starting to move back to where we started. As Krhd News investigator Dennis Turner shows us, one family story contains a dire warning.
I just wanted to go home and see my mother for the last time.
68-year-old Mary Vigil flew from Arizona to Texas a little over a week ago to say goodbye to her mother. After days of mourning and gathering together, family members began to fall ill. Now, 19 in all have come down with the COVID Delta variant. What's more, all had their vaccination.
We just took our masks off and we were hugging, kissing each other. I mean, you know how it is with large families that are close, and we wanted the comfort.
The oldest infected, 87. The youngest, just 10. Infection through family gatherings isn't all that unusual. In fact, it happened in my family. Where else? At a funeral. Several people got sick, and one close family member died after doctors thought he'd begun to recover.
I never thought, since I was, vaccinated, that maybe I would get it.
So far, Vigil's family has been spared further loss, though it makes the loss of her mother even harder.
And the more people that SARS-CoV-2, or the virus that causes COVID-19, the more SARS-CoV-2 infects, the more it's able to potentially mutate. So this is likely why we're seeing more variants coming out of countries with low vaccination rates, because this gives the SARS-CoV-2 virus plenty of ability to infect lots of people and mutate ever so slightly with each infection.
Dr. Christy Reisinger of Austin says, despite what happened to the Vigil family, the vaccines remain one of the only and the best protections we have.
According to data from Public Health England, the Pfizer vaccine is about 88% effective in preventing symptomatic disease from the Delta variant and 96% effective in reducing the risk of hospitalization from the Delta variant. And we can assume the Moderna vaccine will probably perform similarly.
Mary Vigil remains quarantined in a room in her mother's home, trying to get the word out, one person at a time, to anyone who will listen.
Please wear your mask. This is not a joke. You do not want to get sick.
Dennis Turner, 25 News.
Tyson Foods is requiring COVID-19 vaccines for all U.S. employees. Employees at U.S. offices will need to be vaccinated by October 1st. Frontline employees have a November 1st deadline. Once fully vaccinated, employees will get a $200 bonus. Currently, Tyson says nearly half of its 120,000 employees have already been vaccinated. Texas A&M Bush School of Government is offering a new online program to nonprofit professionals interested in racial equity. The new certificate in social justice leadership is designed to address and accelerate racial equity within the nonprofit sector. The online program will consist of 5 3-week courses teaching subjects such as leading diversity, equity, and inclusion, and public service organizations, cultural competency and nonprofit management, and partnerships for social change.
We're looking for folks that are not only interested in this, but we're also looking for folks that want to be educated in this space, that want to do something about it when they're out actually sitting behind the seat in a leadership role at a nonprofit organization.
Those interested in the certificate may still enroll in the program. The deadline for enrollment is Wednesday, August 11th.
A vaccine sharing milestone. President Biden announcing today the U.S. has now donated more than 110 million COVID vaccine doses to 60 different countries. Most of it has been done through the global vaccine sharing program called COVAX. Biden has promised that the U.S. will continue donating vaccines to help curb the spread of COVID around the world. The White House says it will begin shipping 500,000 Pfizer doses to 100 low-income countries by the end of the month. Parts of the U.S. are getting more aggressive in encouraging vaccinations. New York City just announced people will need to show vaccination proof in order to eat inside restaurants, use indoor gyms, and attend other indoor events. That applies to both customers and workers. It's one of the most strict policies in the U.S. so far, but other countries like Italy and France have similar requirements. The program launches this month and gives people about 30 days to get used to the rules before they're enforced. Well, there's another health crisis unfolding simultaneously alongside COVID, and that's alcohol abuse. And it's reached the most extreme point in an increasing number of people.
We've definitely noticed an increase in the number of patients coming in with alcohol-associated hepatitis.
The rate of transplants for acute alcoholic hepatitis boomed during the pandemic. It's more than tripled the expected increase. The number of people on the waiting list for transplants rose even higher. Dr. Therese Bitterman with the University of Pennsylvania has seen the effects firsthand. And while it typically takes years to drink alcohol to the point of developing hepatitis, she believes the pandemic has accelerated use.
And it stems from a number of various issues. Patients who've lost their job or have had to quit their job, perhaps because they have to be involved in childcare more so than they had previously. Patients who have been more distant to their social supports, who haven't had as much access to mental health care or, addiction care.
Transplant patients for acute alcohol-associated hepatitis are typically in their 40s and 50s. Alcohol causes inflammation in the liver and other organs. The liver can heal itself up to the point of cirrhosis. There's indication women and people who have bariatric surgery may progress faster with alcohol use and health issues.
I think the thing that we need to think about more clearly is one, just physicians in general. We all need to have a little bit of increased awareness of this phenomenon of people consuming more alcohol.
More research shows alcohol use is also linked to nearly 750,000 new cancer diagnoses around the world last year. Most of those cancers were in people who had more than 2 drinks per day. But more than 100,000 cases were in people who drank less than that. Alcohol is linked to esophageal, breast, and liver cancers. Well, overdraft fees bring in billions of dollars a year. But a second major financial institution is now dropping those fees. What it would take for other banks to follow.
Coming up, our consumer alert, Zoom is paying out a massive settlement because of Zoom bombing. We'll explain. But first, if you're a big Black Friday shopper, we've got some bad news for you, how supply chain issues may impact Black Friday this year. That's next. Well, it's only August, and already supply chain experts are saying Black Friday might have some hiccups this year. Shipping delays in Europe and China are straining global supply chains, which means there might not be enough items to stock up shelves for Black Friday. Experts say electronics, clothes, and appliances will likely be in short supply around that time. Prices are expected to go up, and discounts will probably not be as big as we've seen in the past. Well, dating changed a lot during the pandemic. Apps became more popular and video chatting became more common. Now dating apps are making video chat features a new standard because of how well they work. Nearly half of users on Tinder used video chat during the pandemic. 70% of Hinge users in the UK say they'll continue virtual dating after the pandemic. And Zoom is paying $85 million in a settlement related to Zoom bombing incidents. Zoom bombing is when a hacker crashes a video call and shows inappropriate images or audio. There were thousands of incidents last year. The class action suit claimed that Zoom failed to stop the attacks because it had relaxed security. A judge still needs to approve the settlement. Well, First Alert Chief Meteorologist Matt Hines is standing by with a look at weather.
And we've had a couple of spotty showers earlier today across the region, but things have really quieted down for us, and most of those were just to the west of Bryan College Station as you head back toward Caldwell and Snook, and we have a couple still making their way down to the south. But overall, things not looking as active as they have been. as we look across the state, there is drier air across Oklahoma, West Texas, North Texas, and with a north wind coming in now, we should drag at least a little bit of that into the area. So hopefully tomorrow it'll feel a little more comfortable outside than what we've experienced over the past couple of days. So your future track showing in the morning, things looking pretty quiet out there, and that will probably go into tomorrow afternoon as well. Partly cloudy skies. Hopefully not quite as humid for you on your Wednesday, and that'll make it feel a little bit better across the area. Then we get into Thursday, and a few clouds will be around from time to time, maybe an isolated shower or storm. We're going to keep rain chances about 20%. I think a lot of it's going to be south of us, though, as that slightly drier air continues here across the region, so not looking too bad for us as we move through the next couple of days. In fact, temperatures will be a little bit below normal, low to mid 70s for tonight for those lows, and a little more comfortable across our northern counties with a little drier air up there. Then tomorrow, highs will be into the low to mid 90s. We're supposed to be at 97, 98 degrees this time of year, and we're looking at 91 to 93 for most of us. So it is going to be a decent day across the area for August standards. And as we check out your forecast, those temperatures going from 93 to 93 Thursday and 95 on Friday. There's your isolated storm chance again. It's isolated at best. 20% chance. Saturday and Sunday just looking hot. Highs in the mid to upper 90s, more mid to upper 90s as we roll through next week as well. It looks like that heat dome's going to kind of take over right here across the region, but notice we are below the triple digits. Hopefully we can continue that trend. Lows at night will be a little sultry down into the mid to upper 70s.
More financial institutions are dropping overdraft fees. They're usually about $35 after running a card with no balance. Alliant Credit Union will no longer charge customers for this type of short-term loan. This comes just 2 months after Ally, an online-only bank, also made the same move. In 2020, customers in the U.S. were charged more than $12 billion in overdraft fees. That's according to data from FinHealth. Most people who end up paying these types of fees are families who live from paycheck to paycheck.
Overdraft fees are highly concentrated among families living on the edge. 1 in 12 families in America pay $350 a year or more in overdraft fees.
Aaron Klein has researched what these overdraft fees mean for banks. He's found that overdraft fees are purely for profit, but don't make up a large amount of revenue for most banks.
My research has found a small handful of banks who make a majority of their profit just on overdraft fees alone. And without strong regulation from the bank regulators, this is going to unfortunately probably continue.
And now that we've seen some financial institutions drop this fee, it's possible that other banks could follow or even lower the fee. A bill recently introduced in Congress would make it illegal for banks to charge more than one fee per month. It would also require that the fees are proportional to the amount of the overdraft and the actual cost to the bank for providing coverage for the transaction. Well, a new initiative is looking to rate colleges based on how valuable their programs are to students. Columbia, George Washington University, and the National Student Legal Defense Network came up with the metrics. They're looking at improvements in earnings after completing a college program and the ability to pay back the money used to pay for education. The goal is to provide hard data to policymakers so that they can consider how to hold colleges accountable when they don't deliver to vulnerable students. Online hate and misinformation has become more of a problem amid the pandemic. It's something the Center for Countering Digital Hate has been continuing to track. In a new report, it's detailing the amount of anti-Semitic content social platforms fail to do anything about. From May to June, CCDH found more than 700 posts containing hateful comments targeted at the Jewish community. That's across Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter. Social media platforms took no action on 84% of those posts. Meanwhile, the Associated Press just helped a gardening group on Facebook reinstate its account after it was flagged for talking about garden hose. It's just one of many examples of how automated moderators can mess up.
They've tried to reduce their costs by using automation to replace, human beings' basic ability to be able to spot hate when they see it.
CCDH says the algorithms that social platforms have in place are also to blame. Now they're set up to push the most interactive user content to the top. The anti-Semitic posts they found were viewed at least 7 million times.
Eyeballs are eyeballs as far as they're concerned. And if they're watching content, they're consuming ads. And so that's an initial revenue flow. The second way is, ironically, they actually benefit from the controversy over their failure to moderate. Because where do we all go to debate these things? It's social media again.
While platforms aren't likely to change these algorithms, something they could do is hire more human moderators. CCDH says in the past, companies have argued it would be too expensive, but there's less of an excuse now.
For companies that have doubled their profits in the pandemic year because we were stuck at home consuming ads on their platforms, it would seem the smallest thing that they could do to try and pay back to the societies from which they've extracted such wealth.
CCDH says they'd also like to see accounts that post hateful content banned and those posts taken down. The first black woman swimmer on Britain's Olympic team is competing in the women's 10K marathon swim today, but without the swimming cap designed specifically to protect her afro. The group, which oversees competitions in swimming, rejected the application from Seoul Cap to use it in the Tokyo Games. It said at the time there's no previous instance of swimmers needing caps with that size and configuration. But now it says it will review the application, saying it understands the importance of inclusivity and representation. Now this comes as there's a new effort to end the racial disparity that exists in swimming. Currently, nearly 64% of black children can't swim, putting them at risk of drowning. That's compared to 40% of white children. Black People Will Swim is one company that's trying to change that. It just launched low-cost classes in Long Island, New York. But its goal is to expand this across the country.
I had a client of mine tell me, hey, I can't swim because my bones are too dense. And from there, I did my research and realized that, well, if she takes this racist narrative as her truth, how many other people do we know that can take a false stereotype or racist stereotype as their truth?
Black People Will Swim is also hiring black instructors because the founder says that representation is important to help kids see learning to swim is possible from someone who looks like them. The founder gave us these pictures of past lessons she has taught. The company is also raising money to build one of the first black-owned swimming pools in the country.
Ownership is important. When we are renting pools from owners, from colleges, from swim programs or things of that nature, we are now at the mercy of them, right? And so how often do you hear a Black-owned swimming pool? We hear Black-owned salons, Black-owned barbershop, Black-owned restaurants.
Black People Will Swim is also focused on educating people of color on caring for their hair during and after their swims. Until they expand, they're hoping everyone will sign the pledge to learn how to swim wherever lessons may be available. You can sign that pledge at blackpeoplewillswim.com. The YMCA and USA Swimming have also created opportunities for anyone to get low-cost or free swim lessons. For more information, visit ymca.net or usaswimming.org. New insights about the Delta variant are changing the perception of the COVID vaccine. What this means for our fight against the virus.
A community garden at the Brazos Valley Food Bank is doing a lot more than just growing your average fruits and vegetables. As KRHD reporter Rebecca Fiedler shows us, a special program is inspiring growth and more than just plants.
The Brazos Valley Food Bank runs a multi-bed garden, which is tended to by clients of the food bank's Together We Grow program, as well as by volunteers from the local community. This garden does more than feed people. In addition to feeding food bank clients, these fruits and veggies serve as teaching tools. The garden is tended to by volunteers and managed by members of the food bank's Together We Grow program, a 5-week course on job skills and long goal achievement. Clients learn leadership and management skills by overseeing community volunteers and also receive case management assistance from the food bank.
That really helps prime folks for their career. not just a job in the community, but their career, something that's going to help folks not just, you know, find something that will pay the bills at the end of the day, but help where would you like to see yourself 5-10 years from now?
As the garden continues to expand and bring in more clients and volunteers, Program Director Elena Jalevka says she hopes that its benefits can create paths to food security for the underemployed and inspire a new relationship between Aggieland locals and fresh food. You can find out more about Together We Grow by visiting the food bank's website at bvfb.org. Reporting in Bryan, Rebecca Fiedler, KRHD News.
Turning now to the Olympics, after all the drama and all of the questions, Simone Biles securing her place in history. Jim Ryan is in Tokyo, showing us where the gymnast now stands among the sport's all-time greats.
In her final chance to compete here in Tokyo, Simone Biles did just that and earned the bronze in the balance beam. It's her 7th Olympic medal. The beam was Biles' first event since last week when she pulled out of the other competitions after getting what gymnasts call the twisties, losing spatial awareness while spinning in the air.
Yes, I'm pretty happy. I wasn't expecting to medal. I just came out here and just tried to do a good beam set.
Biles now ties Shannon Miller as the most decorated U.S. Olympic gymnast with 7 medals. Suni Lee, who won gold in the individual all-around, failed to make the podium, finishing 5th. April Ross and Alex Kleinman have advanced to the semifinals in women's beach volleyball. The 2016 bronze medalist and her partner ousted Germany in their quarterfinal matchup. Also moving on to the semis, men's basketball. In a do-or-die matchup against Spain, the world's number 2 ranked team overcame a sluggish first half to win 95-81. The Americans play again on Thursday. Jim Ryan, ABC News, Tokyo.
And a big congratulations is in order for a fighting Texas Aggie who now holds an American record. Texas A&M track and field star Athing Mo set an American record early this morning in the women's 800-meter run. The 19-year-old also won the first U.S. gold medal in the 800-meter run since 1968. This is Mo's first Olympics. Raven Rogers from Houston won the bronze in the event. And here's a look at the latest medal count. The U.S. adding 9 medals overnight for a total of 73, including 24 gold. China losing some ground in the battle for the top spot, now 4 behind the United States with 69 total medals. The Russian Olympic Committee, Great Britain, and Japan round off the top 5. The competition continues tonight in Tokyo.
In a new interview with our Dan Grossman, the CDC director says the Delta variant of COVID-19 outsmarted us. Now she's speaking about how the newest research suggests that the same amount of Delta can be found in the bodies of both vaccinated and unvaccinated people. That's making it easier to spread than previously thought. Dan Grossman takes a look at how this has changed the perception of the vaccine and what this means moving forward.
Much of what we understand about COVID-19 can be understood through droplets.
No longer have to explain what studying aerosols means to anyone, because we all know now that this virus is airborne, and those little tiny aerosols can infect you.
Droplets that environmental health professor John Volkins has studied at Colorado State University for the last 20 years. First in terms of pollution, now almost exclusively in terms of the Delta variant of the coronavirus, as he informs public health officials about its spread.
The Delta variant is no joke. Like the Alpha variant, it's more transmissible. But the unfortunate reality of Delta is it is about 50% more transmissible than Alpha. What that means is that if you have a town with 10 people who get infected in a cluster, that cluster is not going to produce 10 or 20 more infections, it's going to produce 200 more infections in a matter of days or weeks.
That exact scenario has been seen in Provincetown, Massachusetts, a small town of 3,000 residents that has led to more than 950 new COVID cases ever since the 4th of July holiday. Half of those cases are among residents, while the others are among tourists. The outbreak was so large and so surprising, it has prompted the CDC to update its mask guidance for the entire country. Nearly 74% of the Provincetown cases occurred in vaccinated people, and nearly all of those people have the same amount of virus in their bodies as those who have yet to get the vaccine.
Delta outsmarted us here.
It can be startling to hear that confession from CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky, but this is what's different. After mask guidance was eased for vaccinated people in May, it was believed that the vaccine protected people from spreading the virus about as much as it protected them from getting it in the first place. While breakthrough infections still hover around 1% nationally, those vaccinated people who get it appear to spread COVID just as easily as those who don't have the vaccine. The importance then comes in prevention of serious illness and death. Among those 950 plus Provincetown cases, no one has died and 7 people have been sent to the hospital.
And the important thing that is not different about Delta, that our vaccines seem to be working exactly as they did in the clinical trials in terms of preventing symptomatic disease and preventing severe disease and death.
I think there is a bit of a misnomer when you think I will get the vaccine and never get the virus, because what the vaccine really does is it gives your body the tools to deal with the virus when it gets in there so that it doesn't produce any bad side effects.
The new CDC guidance on wearing masks in places with substantial and high transmission, even for the vaccinated, is then primarily to protect one another, while getting vaccinated is used primarily to protect ourselves. And if these mask regulations become more widespread and reminiscent of a time before they were eased, it will be because the vaccine rates are still behind where the scientists in charge of learning about COVID think it should be to slow this virus's evolution and spread.
Get vaccinated. We know the vast majority of states that are surging have the lowest number, states and counties have the lowest amount of vaccination rates in the country. So those are very much correlated. Lots of disease in areas of low vaccination. So get vaccinated to protect yourself.
I'm Dan Grossman.
More time looking at screens during the pandemic may be affecting eyesight for children. A new study in the British journal Ophthalmology analyzed the eyesight of 2,000 school-aged children in Hong Kong. It found the rate of nearsightedness during the pandemic more than doubled from 11% to 27%. Researchers say nearsightedness can lead to more serious eye issues later in life, like vision loss. Well, it's an area that has one of the highest cancer risks from exposure to toxic air in the country.
My neighbors on this side died with cancer, neighbor on that side died with cancer, and so forth. We can go on and on and on.
How neighbors are fighting again to keep pollution out, and why the burden of pollution on communities of color isn't just a weight felt on what's known as Cancer Alley.
And it has been hot here across the area. Temperature's been into the low 90s today, but with the humidity, it's felt like the upper 90s for us. However, as we make our way through the next couple of days, hopefully a little drier air will be in. Can't rule out an isolated thunderstorm. This is not even showing much here on the future track, but can't rule out maybe 1 or 2 pop-up thunderstorms here or there. But with some slightly drier air moving in, it should feel a little more comfortable outside as we move into Wednesday. Thursday, same thing. We will start off with some clouds in the morning, partly cloudy in the afternoon. And again, can't rule out an isolated storm threat, but I do think that it'll remain on the lower side over the next couple of days. And looking at temperatures, well, they're going to be pretty nice up to the north, lower 70s, middle 70s for the central and southern areas, including Bryan College Station. Then tomorrow, highs into the low to mid 90s, but with some slightly drier air in place, it should feel a little more comfortable outside than the past couple of afternoons across the area. It is August. It's supposed to be hot, but at least we're talking about below normal temperatures. Pair 93s here Wednesday and Thursday. It's supposed to be 97 this time of year, so a little below normal. We'll take it. 95 degrees on Friday, 96 up to 97 on Sunday. So that is normal for this time of year, and it's going to be pretty normal as we make our way into next week as well. Highs will be into the mid to upper 90s. That's exactly where it should be this time of year. Lows at night will be into the 70s. There could be an isolated storm or two as we head toward the beginning of next week. But right now, it looks like that it's mainly just going to be on the hotter side. But again, normal hot and not excessive heat across the area.
Nearly 4 in 10 Americans live with unhealthy air. That's according to the American Lung Association. The reasons range from natural disasters like wildfires to man-made pollution from factories. In some communities, people are now pushing back against plans they worry could make the air they breathe even worse. Chris Stewart traveled to a place where pollution concerns are so strong, they've earned the area a nickname no community would want.
They call our area Cancer Alley, and that's a hurting thing to know that we are considered as Cancer Alley.
It is a label that casts a shadow over the part of Louisiana where Sharon Levine's roots run deep.
Oh, when I grew up, we had everything over here. We had clean air, clean water, productive soil.
She's lived in St. James Parish all her life, but change here has become as constant as the flow of the Mississippi River.
The first industry started in the late 60s, and they grew as they came along. One came along, then the next one, and the next one.
The dozens of plants between New Orleans and Baton Rouge produce around a quarter of our country's petrochemicals, materials used in everything from toiletries to paint. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, this area has one of the highest cancer risks from exposure to toxic air in the country.
My neighbors on this side died with cancer, neighbor on that side died with cancer, and so forth. We can go on and on and on.
In 2019, Sharon led an effort that stopped an overseas company from building $1 billion plastics plant here.
Because our lives worth more than a chemical plant.
Now she's worried about pollution again. She's fighting Taiwan-based Formosa Plastics, which the local council approved to build a $9.4 billion plant on this industrially zoned lot not far from her home, in part of St. James Parish that is mostly black.
When they said it was going to come 2 miles from my home, it did something to me.
Tulane University researchers recently found that higher levels of air pollution were linked to higher cancer rates among black or high poverty communities in Louisiana.
Race disparities in Louisiana are a big issue that is, bigger than any one factor, right? It's bigger than pollution. It's bigger than access to health care. It's, we see those disparities on a lot of different levels, but certainly one factor is the disproportionate location of these plants in African American communities.
The burden of pollution on communities of color isn't just a weight felt here.
I was diagnosed with asthma. At the age of 46 is when I came down with cancer.
In Philadelphia, the largest oil refinery on the East Coast closed in 2019 after an explosion. The EPA had reported for years the refinery was emitting high levels of benzene, a known cancer-causing chemical.
So they really damaged this neighborhood, this community.
To understand the evolution of the place now known as Cancer Alley, Dr. Joy Banner says, look to history.
Well, I think heavy industry was attracted to this part of Louisiana because the infrastructure was already there. And what I mean is infrastructure was placed there by the former plantations.
In the Louisiana town where she's lived all her life, Dr. Banner is fighting plans to build a grain complex near an old plantation where she teaches people about the past. She worries about the dust that could come from it.
So it would contribute to the already heavy pollution burden that we as a community are bearing.
As far as Sharon's fight, her group is filing legal challenges in hopes of stopping the multi-billion-dollar plastics plant.
We want clean jobs, green jobs.
Formosa Plastics sent us a statement saying the project will create hundreds of good-paying jobs. The company will pay millions in state and local taxes, and the project has met state and federal standards to protect the community. It says any claim it will greatly increase toxic emissions in the area is a misrepresentation and inaccurate.
But they're not going to build, trust me. They will not build, not 2 miles from me, I don't think so. No, indeed. Don't even say that word, if they want to build. That upsets me when somebody say, if it's coming, it's not coming.
If you wonder why someone would stay in a place called Cancer Alley, you don't understand that its meaning, to many who live here, goes beyond a nickname and a lifetime.
I don't want to leave because this is what my grandparents left here for us. They worked this land, they paid for this land, and for me to give it up, it's like I'm giving up the legacy of my grandparents.
In St. James Parish, Louisiana, I'm Chris Stewart reporting.
The right to repair movement is gaining a lot of ground. Chris Conte shows us how the Federal Trade Commission is now stepping in to make sure you can repair that phone wherever you want.
We've all been there when our beloved handheld device is sent to the technological great beyond. Every day, Americans dispose of nearly 400,000 cell phones.
It's an aftermarket screen.
But Danny spends his days working to repair phones that otherwise might be lost.
Not everyone can afford to buy a brand new phone, right? And not everyone can afford to pay for Apple Care or like insurance or something.
It's not an easy job. Phone manufacturers do their best to make it incredibly difficult for third-party repair people like Danny to get parts and even access manuals, meaning the cost you pay for repair goes up.
We also have like different qualities of screen. So some screen we buy it for cheaper.
But all of that is about to change.
We're hurting the environment, it's draining our pocketbooks, and it doesn't need to be that way.
Nathan Proctor is a right to repair advocate, a movement pushing for consumers to be able to do whatever they please when it comes to repairing electronic equipment like cell phones.
The problem is they sold it, we bought it, it's ours now, and they don't get to tell us what to do.
The whole movement is gaining national attention. In early July, President Biden signed an executive order asking the Federal Trade Commission to tackle, quote, unfair anti-competitive restrictions on third-party repair. And now the FTC will enforce that order.
There's a lot of public interest impacts, when the system is so absurd.
But how will enforcement work? The government agency is mainly relying on you, the consumer, to report issues to ftc.gov, like having a company say you voided a warranty by having one of those third-party repair companies open and fix your phone. The order will allow you to take your phone to any repair shop, not just one authorized by your phone manufacturer. It also means parts and manuals have to be made more available to any repair store, making them cheaper.
We've been working to kind of create a campaign where people understood, hey, you know what? This isn't right. No one should tell me how I should and when I should be able to fix stuff.
Back at Danny's repair table, he knows not every American can afford to replace a $900 phone.
It's not like everyone can go and buy another phone as soon as they break it. I mean, that doesn't make any sense unless you're a millionaire.
His hope is that enforcement of right to repair laws will keep this vital piece of technology affordable for everyone.
You should keep on fixing your phone until it's really, really time to upgrade it. This is good. It's working now.
I'm Chris Conti.
Thanks for joining us for Krhd News at 6. Be sure to join us later tonight at 10. Have a great evening.